Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Championship Leadership Podcast. And I'm excited. We've got Grant Aldrich here from OnlineDegree.com, founder and CEO of that company, as well as, and he's coming out of Thousand Oaks, California. We were just talking about former training camp location for the Dallas Cowboys, and also some great old Westerns like the show Bonanza that I think we probably all heard of before too. So anyways, that has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today, but fun little facts. So thanks for being here, Grant.
Hey Nate, thanks for having me, man. I know how funny, right? That's like the claim to fame for Thousand Oaks, right? Training
No
camp for the
doubt.
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
the way, as I said, I still remember as a little kid walking up to, because you could go watch the practices, walking up to Herschel Walker at the time, walking up to that guy, asking for his autograph. And dude, what a gentleman, awesome guy he was. And then now, what a treat for me, looking all these years now, watching that guy on YouTube. He's just an animal.
yeah. Well, yeah. What was it like, man? That guy's like a specimen still to this
Oh,
day, physical specimen. He's just like incredible shape
he
and
is. I know. And
phenomenal
plus, like
athlete.
his work ethic. It's
Yeah,
just it's so impressive. And I know I love watching that guy for just inspiration.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into this. What Championship Leadership's the name of the podcast here. What is what comes to mind for you, or what does championship leadership mean to you when you hear that?
Wow. To me, I think of two things. The first is anything that you're doing, you have to be a leader in that field or in that movement. So,
Hmm.
I tell this to my kids. I've got three young kids and I've reflected a lot on the lessons that I'm going to be teaching them. And one of the things is you have to embody the leadership that you want in anything that you're doing. So to me, right now, I'm in higher education, and I'm absolutely trying to lead and trumpet affordable education, and I have to embody that. You have to really become and the change that you want to be, and become a leader as a result. And then I
Hmm.
think the second thing about that is that you have to also be something that, leading is all about people. And so you have to be able to lead, um, all the personal and work connections that you have in the organization and partners to also, get to what that goal is, that vision you have for whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. What we'll talk then a little bit about what it is that you do. I mentioned obviously already in the intro, and just as we're coming on, CEO, founder of OnlineDegree.com, which is very interesting to see how you kind of got onto that path for yourself. And I know you guys are doing some other things now, moving into certifications as well that we can talk about a little bit too. But yeah, just tell the listeners a little bit more about you and kind of how you found your way to what you do today.
Yeah, well, I really started out with just a mission, which was that I wanted to change higher education or college. I mean, I don't think anybody, every day you can go on the newspaper and see an article about how it's become unaffordable, it's not accessible, um, too many people are not gaining access to education. So that was what I wanted to change. I said, I'm going to make college affordable and accessible for everybody. And that really led me on this journey. And now about 3 years ago, with just that guiding light. And what we've created is at onlinedegree.com, unlike a normal path to college, you can get started instead online in 60 seconds, no applications, no interviews, no entrance exams. Start taking college level courses towards your degree for free. And then we offer all these additional things like support services. We get you discounts at the university where you're going to go. So it's a modern alternative to the community college system. And by doing so, we've made it now so accessible for anyone to just take that path, no matter what their busy schedule is, what their finances are, or anything that's going on in their life. They can just wade into the pool instead of jumping in like they had to do prior.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Like, you know, you talked about championship leadership and what it means and what it is to you. And then obviously, that's, you see, I'm seeing that in yourself as being that leader in an industry. And I don't know too many people. It seems like when you just talk about it, right? How do we make it online education or college education accessible and affordable to everyone? And it sounds like a cool idea, but I don't know that I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to lead this movement to actually make that happen. And just the thought of the overwhelm of what it would take to really go and to do that. What was it in for you that really drove you to not only just have a cool idea and be like, oh, that'd be neat, to like creating it and going out and doing it and building it?
Well, I mean, I think that's partly because I'm a masochist, and I enjoy
You have to be.
these awfully difficult challenges. Yeah, I guess you have to be, or just not very bright. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
right.
all the above.
A little of both. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
You know what happened was, this is so I give a little bit about my backstory. The reason I started this was that I had some prior success. I've been in startups my whole career. And after about 13 years of being in startups, I had a couple exits under my belt. And at that point, I realized how unhappy and unfulfilled I had been in the prior endeavors. And, you know, going even further back, that's the irony is that when I was a little kid, I've always wanted freedom. And I've always, and freedom was not about money. It was just about creative expression, doing what I wanted to do, and all these things. And over that first 13 years of my career, and a lot of people can relate with this, I became a slave in my pursuit of freedom. And it's so easy. It happens just, one little click of the chain at a time, and I realized that I wasn't doing things that made me happy. I didn't really know myself. And I was bound to change that. So coming off of that experience, I had this really inflective period where I really asked myself, what do I want to do? And part of it was that I wanted a big challenge that I would be passionate about to fix and really enjoy going to work every day. So that just naturally gravitated towards education. I grew up in a family of educators. I left college with a ton of debt. I'm like, this system's broken. It's not just broken for me, it's broken for everybody. And just rife with opportunity to fix. And so, back to your point, yeah, it was such a daunting thing to try to come in and say, because you've got this monolithic industry that's very slow and cumbersome, but the challenge and the reward, if you could do it right, would be so high. And that's what really excited me.
Yeah. How is it that the first year is free? I saw that and that stuck out to me. I was like, that's cool. Number one, that's amazing. But yeah, how do you pull that off?
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, it was. Well, I'll tell you, that was actually one of the hardest parts of the story. And like the message I would tell people is that, you have to, it's not easy to upend a market.
Yeah.
And to change an industry. But because as we all know, tuition is synonymous with education. It just is. Mm-hmm. So, but when I was looking at the problem, I knew that we had to make it free, because there's an estimated 35 to 40 million working adults who want to upskill or get a degree, but who are not taking that first step. And so then I thought, well, why? Well, it's because we're all busy adults. And, if there's any little problem, we just think about it in our minds, we never do it. Yeah. Because one, let's say there's the financial impediment. Hey, I can't justify this right now. I've got some financial issues, whatever it is. There's the physical aspect, that kind of impediment. Hey, I can't leave work in the middle of the day to go take classes at a community college. That doesn't work for me. And then finally, it's the psychological. Am I going to be successful in an online classroom? Am I going to be able to manage my time? So when you think about crafting a solution that will solve all those things, it has to be free at the top, because you have to give people the ability to get in there and prove all those things to themselves that they can do it, and that it will work for them. It is affordable, all of those things. Yeah. It has to be free. So coming up with a model to make it free is not easy. I'll be honest. That was one of the toughest things. Because I remember early on,
funding for that. Hey, I got this great business idea, and by the way, we're going to give the first year away for free.
Right. That too. Yeah, exactly. Well, kind of a funny story to kind of illustrate this. Most people don't realize that if let's say, obviously you need a lot of vendors to support you in like an online education. Almost all of them charge based on tuition. So let's say you go to a vendor, you say, hey, how much is the service going to be? They always say, well, it's, $40 a month based on your tuition or whatever that is. I said, yeah, but we don't have tuition. It's going to be free. I need a bulk rate. They're like, what? Well, what do you charge tuition? I'm like, we don't. So getting past people in the early days was very challenging at first.
Yeah.
So the way that I crafted the system, so now that kind of gave you the setup, it's all supported by the universities. So it's obvious probably of how we benefit a consumer, right? We lower the cost of education, help you get there faster, try it out on your time, explore topics that are interesting to you. It's probably all pretty intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
But the universities have an immense benefit as well, because what's a little known fact is that universities have a very difficult time finding great students.
Yeah.
For them, a great student is someone who's going to come prepared, know how to learn in an online environment, which isn't always, immediately obvious, persist through their program. And so because of that, what students don't realize is as they go through our process and they're on the platform, they're becoming better students. And so as they become better students, they're more desirable to all the schools. And so all the schools, it's completely sponsored and provided for by the universities on the platform.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it really created like a win-win. Like the whole goal is to
Yeah.
help people get back to school and help universities get better students. So it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. That's a great idea. What's who are some of the championship leaders that you've had in your past that maybe have impacted you, and what is it about them? Like, what's really kind of sticks out to you? What are those characteristics maybe that they've had that you resonated with, and maybe even have kind of helped to mold you as who you are as a championship leader?
This is not an easy one, I'll admit. I got a lot of guys who left some pretty profound marks on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with one. There's a guy named Marcus Friend, and people probably have never heard his name, but he was the founder of the dating website called Plenty of Fish.
Oh, wow.
And so, and most people have heard of that platform. It's one of the largest dating sites in existence. Anyway, Marcus is an incredible guy. He built that company, right, which became one of the largest dating sites in the world by himself.
Wow.
He had no employees. He was just him. And you think about today, how incredible that is when companies are raising money, they've got 1,000 employees, right? And it was just one guy.
That's
and
amazing.
So to me, I love following him as inspiration because it shows the power of what one motivated entrepreneur can do.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm not saying you necessarily need to do that. And I haven't been able to do that, right? I've got a lot of people who support me and it's awesome.
Right.
But it changes your dynamic in a sense, in that it teaches you that, hey, I can do this with a lot less. We don't have to have a lot of bloat, because that also ties in with another thing that for me, I'm a big person on keeping your expenses low, lean as possible. For someone who wants to become an entrepreneur, gives you more runway. It lowers your stress. There's all these reasons why that's a big deal. And so he was a really big, because you look at that guy, like, wow, he did it. That's amazing. Yeah. Other kind of leaders. Another one would be a couple other. There's a guy named Ludwig von Mises, who's he's an economist, and the reason why, to me, he was such an amazing leader was because, not to go too much in the story, your listeners can look him up, but he was a kind of a free market, he was the free market economic leader. And when he came from, emigrated to the United States, he had this he was correct in free market economics, but he was also, it was not popular at the time, right? Yeah. Big government spending and all this stuff.
Right.
And so he was not unpopular. And at any point in his career, he could have foregone his opinions and his principles to take a very cushy role at any of the universities at the time. But he didn't, and he never got one of those. And so one of the most brilliant thinkers of the 20th century never got that cushy position because he was not willing to compromise his principles. And I love him for it.
Yeah, that's a lot to be said for that, right? Because it's I don't know if it's more so today or not, just because of social media and the news and how fast things can travel. But to have an unpopular opinion, especially today, and then to be able to stick to that and not give in to the peer pressure and maybe take the easy road, it can be difficult. So anyone that can have that conviction in themselves and that faith in their beliefs and who they are, that's definitely stands out for sure.
Oh man, you're totally right. In this world, like you said, where, opinions are so fickle and they just, it's all dictated by what the crowd, populism. And that's very dangerous. I think that
Yeah.
people need to have strong convictions and principles, regardless of what it is. I mean, I may not agree with everybody, but I applaud and I respect someone who has a lot of conviction. But you're right that we just don't see that
No,
often.
no. And I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of understandable because it is, there's just so many people that just want to attack if you don't align with them. And it's too bad. It's sad to see. So hopefully we can, hopefully, I don't know, maybe something through everything that we're going through today, right? With the COVID-19 and the curve flattening and the social distancing. I don't know if there's a way that we could come out of this a little bit different, or realize that it's okay and that we love connection and we can, people and opinions, it's okay to have different opinions. But I do see that playing out today too. So I don't know.
I
But
agree. Yeah, man, I agree.
what's what we talked a little bit, you mentioned before we hit record actually, that not only is it going to be online degrees but also certifications. And so that kind of plays into my question around, like, what's the vision for you and where do you want to go and what are you trying to do and accomplish, and the impact that you want to make um, around, maybe the short term, 5-10 years from now.
Yeah. Well, my goal has always been that this becomes the platform for people to begin their journey to college or any kind of higher education.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've made some real, real headway on that. And initially when we launched, I wanted to prove out the concept, and we did it first with degrees only. So if someone was degree bound, we got all these discounts at schools, university partners, and it went incredibly well.
Yeah.
Got a lot of great press, all these things. And so it was always on my radar to expand past those offerings, because a degree is a great option for many people, but not for everyone.
Yeah.
And sometimes a certification could be another great pathway for someone who's very career oriented. Like, for example, medical billing and coding, great career, pays very well.
Yeah.
And so, we provide the training and the certification program for that.
Okay.
It only takes 6 months. It's far
Mm-hmm.
cheaper. So there's all these great things like that out there. So we just launched on the platform where now, we've got all these different options for our students. It's a really big deal. So now I guess, what it does, it just completed the picture. So that when someone's there, we've got all the different options for them to upskill. And I think it's going to be a very big deal. It's already been really popular. And so, for the next 5 years, I think we're just going to keep building awareness and eventually getting better opportunities for our students, better deals for our students. Because right now, for example, if a student comes on, and let's say they want to go to University of Maryland, it's the top public school in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You can not only take 15 courses towards your degree or 44 units. They also give our students a 25% discount. That's an immense discount.
Yeah.
That's not a scholarship, no applications, no nothing,
Really?
just boom, right off the top, because they know that our students are going to be prepared when they show up.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, that's almost like cutting the cost of a degree in half. So I know that on the platform, we're going to continue to get offers like that with every university in the country, and to expand, the current offers we already do have. So it becomes 50, 60%. We're going to do it. It's just going to take, a little bit more time, but we're getting there.
I love it. Is this something that you see yourself continuing to build and stay a part of, or is there a strategy for you to build this up to a certain point and then to kind of move on to something different?
Yeah, you have to go through that soul searching moment, right? If someone just drives up a truck of money in front of you. But no, that was another part. Kind of going back to my earlier point about what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to bail out at a certain point. So I want to be in this for perpetuity. And so even if at one point I feel that there's another group that could come in and add real value to the platform, and that we couldn't structure a partnership, it had to have been something where we merge the entities together. Okay, so be it.
Sure.
But I always want to be involved.
Yeah. It's your baby, it's your thing, and
that's it.
It's you're passionate about. So yeah, I love that. What would be, I love this question. It's probably my favorite question when I on these podcasts, is really, the difficult moments, the critical moments, the defining moments, turning points inside your life where you are where you are today because of the decisions that you've made. And I think championship leaders, they have this, like, they're willing to make those decisions even when they're just not sure. I think what makes it so hard is, it's a big decision, but you just don't know how it's going to play out, right? But you just kind of trust in your gut, and you trust in what it is that you, like you said, what you want, and it's going after it with no guarantee that it's going to work out or not, right? And that's what makes it so hard, and that's what causes so many to not go after it. And there's a lot of outside pressure sometimes. It's like, oh, don't do that. You're good here. You're safe. Like, why would you even do that? Like, no, you're going to ruin your life, whatever, right? So is there a moment that sticks out in your mind where you could share with us? Obviously, you did make the decision that you have, and so you are where you are today, but life could look very different had you not.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You know what it was? It was actually getting back into it and starting this venture again. If you could
Yeah.
imagine, by the time that I had sold those two prior companies, I
Uh-huh.
was toiling away through my 20s for it was almost like a 13-year stint, maybe 12 years.
Yeah.
And at that point, my wife was pregnant. I was about to be a family man. And, from that point to knowingly, right? Like, now this, you can't plead ignorance, right? I know
Yeah.
what it's like to go back
Right.
into a startup and
Yeah.
to suffer for years as you get it off the ground, and
Yeah.
to no guarantee of success and all these things. I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, that was a bold decision,
Yeah.
especially because
Yeah.
at that point, usually what happens after that point, you get a lot of other opportunities that open up. You could stay at the
Uh-huh.
company that acquired you. You could take consulting roles. There's all these other paths that are like open up that become lucrative and very, opportune. But,
Yeah.
to go back in, it's just, I don't know. To me, it was the excitement of it all. I think that was a really bold choice. And of course, we'll see what happens from all of that. But I really think that that was the big one.
And so how long ago was that?
That was so the that all happened in the last day of 2015. So 2016 was when things started to get put in place for onlinedegree.com.
Okay.
And so yeah, we're almost, I would say though it's been like 3 years, because that, I wouldn't really count that year. It was really kind of rough. But so yeah, about 3 years in.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think, it's just always good because there's a lot of people that are probably in one of those moments right now. And like I say, you could, depending on how you look at it, you could, it's almost like we have those every day, right? But there are some that really stand out and stick out. And I know there's a lot of people that are in kind of that fork in the crossroad, or the fork in the road type moment, and they got to make that decision, and it's a tough one. So,
Well, you know what,
um,
too, and sorry, not to, I'll add one little piece to that.
yeah,
Because I knew it was such a big decision, and obviously I'd been in this rodeo a few times.
yeah,
Like I knew to be scared,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Um, to kind of curb that, what I did is I wrote myself a letter right before I started,
Okay.
right before the opening day, right?
Yeah.
And I have it up on my wall that I look at it every day. It's a letter on it that I wrote to myself to calm me in what I knew would be a crazy and stressful time to come. And so it's me speaking to myself, offering me solace and comfort in what I know will come, and to remember to gain perspective from when I was very calm and optimistic and all those things. I got a picture of my family under that, and I look at that almost every day. It's literally above my desk, because it just reminds me when I have, like, ups are great, but most of the time it's downs, and you get
Yeah.
setbacks. And you look at that when during those setbacks, and you look up there and you remember, okay, no, I'm on the right track. I'm doing it. I'm living my dream.
I
So I
love
would
that.
recommend
That's
everybody do
awesome.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
and I
recommend
think,
everybody do it.
yeah, if you're listening, obviously you are to the podcast if you are. And yeah, I would take that and implement it. I think those are the powerful things. Like, it's one thing to listen to a podcast, read a book, watch a video, go to a seminar, but it's another to actually take something from it and implement it, put it into play for your life. And that's a great one right there to be able to do. So you do it in like third person, or?
Yeah, it was almost like I was speaking to myself, like
Yeah,
writing to myself, like
yeah,
like I would a stranger, but it was to me. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I love it. Yeah, great idea. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna implement that myself. That's a great idea.
it's crazy. I look back at it all the time, man. Really,
I
it
believe it.
is. It's
Yeah,
gotten me through a lot of things.
absolutely. As we do wrap this up, I think you just gave us a good nugget right there, probably without even realizing it. But what are one or two things that you could leave with the listeners on top of that that if they were to implement today, would help move their life forward today?
I think the number one thing that every person has to ask themselves is a 3,000-year-old maxim from ancient Greece. It's know thyself.
Mm.
I think that is the absolute key to being happy and to be successful. And this is something that I tragically find that most people never really get to know. And just to give you some background on this, so in ancient Greece, on the Temple of Apollo, the Temple of Apollo was Apollo was the god of wisdom, so this was the Temple of Wisdom. It was inscribed on the entrance, and the rationale was that how could you know anything if you don't know yourself? How could you be wise if you don't even know yourself? The thing you should know better than anyone else. And to me, that has been critical, because once I actually decided that I knew myself, it was really easy for me to construct my life to know how I would be successful and how it would make me happy. So I'll give you an example. You know, in like, let's say startups. Let's say you're going to create a startup, and you always hear people come up with all kinds of, you know, factors in determining that good business, right? Oh, can it scale? It's going to make money. I never, ever, ever hear entrepreneurs ask themselves, is this right for me? Is this the right business that'll make me happy? It's like never even a consideration. It's the most important consideration.
Yeah.
Or like, and I'll give you a more practical example. Let's say you are someone who, you know, is not a good manager. You don't like interacting with people. Well, then you absolutely should not create a business where you have to manage a ton of people. Bad move, right? Like that Marcus Friend example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or if you're a board shorts kind of guy, and that's like the way that your kind of style is, you don't want to pick a role where you have to be in a suit every day doing
Right.
on-call sales. That's
Yeah.
a bad idea.
Yeah.
You're going to be unhappy. So anyway, I think that that's the most critical thing. And you should give yourself the gift of a few months of introspection to ask yourself that.
Yeah, that is. It's extremely important, and I think you do. You see it all the time, or you hear it all the time, right? The board short example, I think, is a great one, right? Where they're like, you know, it's this board short guy was forced into wearing the street suit. I hated it. Like it wasn't me. It wasn't authentic. And then maybe they'll go on and they'll create this business, and now they own thyself, and they're known as the board short guy, right?
Right.
Because that's
right.
who they are, and they love it, and they thrive because of that, because people love just, you know, people that are real. So
that's it, man. It's all about authenticity. I think you nailed it. It's all about being real. If you're real, everything it's just easy. And like, look, you're also an entrepreneur, so you get this, right? And so as entrepreneurs, you and I both here, our circles are full of entrepreneurs. You do always a lot of exercises as part of that to say, you know, what's a cool business idea? And you kind of talk through it. You and I could probably on our hands, and when someone's talking about an idea and all the factors, put up on our hands how many times someone says, but is this idea going to make me happy? It's like zero.
Yeah,
it's never a consideration. You know, it's always like, yeah, what's the business model? You know, could we advertise? You know, man, wait a second, back up.
Yeah. First question, is this going to make me happy? That's probably the most important question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. Yeah. I think it's zero for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, and it's been a blast. What would be some ways that the listeners can follow you, find out more about you and onlinedegree.com, which is obviously where they could go for that. So
yeah, well, Nate, thanks for having me, man. I really enjoy this. I'm looking forward to talking with you and your listeners. Onlinedegree.com is the website, probably easy enough. And then I'm really big on LinkedIn. So, you know, if you want to go on to LinkedIn, you can search my name, Grant Aldrich, or the company. And great to follow you on there. I'm really active on there.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking time again, Grant. And like I said, it's been a blast. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, man.
You bet.